Hello, fellow Sun Lakers. I'm Mary Flynn, director of today's production of The Grinch That Stole Christmas. When I moved here in July from Gig Harbor, Washington, I was so excited to be introduced to the drama club here in Sun Lakes. In my previous life, I was a drama teacher at Santa Maria High School and coordinator for the musical theater program in Redondo Beach. Little did I know that there would be new challenges to solve during our rehearsals for The Grinch. In spite of COVID restrictions, weather, and closed clubhouses, we continued to rehearse in my garage. Our original plans to record the show in the ballroom were dashed at the last minute, the final weeks of rehearsal, so we filmed in the garage. Therefore, you may notice a few additional sound effects. You can hear the dogs, and the wind and the trains, and the noise from the cars and all the jet planes. We gathered our costumes, we gathered some props, we danced and we sang, and we did a few hops. And the Who's and the Grinch bring you this play, hoping to have a happy, festive holiday. I would like to thank our production crew, Lee Stone and Bob Murray, for all of our talented thespians. So sit back, relax, enjoy. I hope we contribute to your very Merry Christmas season for you and yours. Thank you.
Welcome to Whoville on this fine eve of Christmas. During this entire presentation, I invite you to sing along to the Who for their very favorite Christmas carols. But to begin with, we're going to sing my favorite Christmas carol, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
He's making a list, checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake.
He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake.
Oh, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Ah, yes, I do love Christmas, and all the Who in Whoville below like it a lot.
But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not.
The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now please, don't ask me why. No one quite knows the reason.
It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight.
But I think the most likely reason of all may have been his heart was just 2 sizes too small.
But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Who's.
Staring down from his cave with that sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town.
For he knew down in Whoville, every Whoville beneath was busily hanging their mistletoe wreath.
And they're hanging their stockings.
He snarled with a sneer.
Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here.
Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming.
I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming.
For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early and rush for their toys.
And the noise! Oh, the noise! Noise!
That's one thing he hated.
The noise!
and the Who's, young and old, would sit down for a feast.
And they'd feast.
And they'd feast.
And they'd feast, 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 feast.
Why, they would feast on Who pudding and the rare Who roast beast.
Which is something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least.
And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small.
Oh, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. Oh, they'd stand hand in hand.
And the Who's would start singing.
They'd sing.
And they'd sing, 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 sing. Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la.
And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought,
I must stop this whole thing. For 53 years I've put up with it now. There must be some way to stop Christmas. But how?
then he got an idea. An awful idea.
The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
I know just what to do.
The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked.
What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer.
The Grinch did look around, but since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found.
Did that stop the old Grinch?
No!
So the Grinch simply said,
If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead.
so he called his dog Max, and he took a red thread, and he tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh. Then he hitched up old Max, and then he said,
Giddy up!
And the sleigh started down toward the homes, where the Who's lay a snooze in the town.
All the windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air.
The Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square,
This is stop number 1.
Old Grinchy Claus hissed. Then he stepped on the roof, empty bags in his fist.
and he slid down the chimney a rather tight pinch. But if Santa can do it, so can the Grinch.
He goes stop, only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue,
where all the tiny Who stockings were hung in a row.
These stockings
the Grinch grinned.
are the first things to go.
So he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present.
Popguns, bicycles, roller skates, drums.
Checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums.
And he stuffed them in bags.
Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney.
Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast.
He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast.
He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash.
But that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash.
Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee.
Now
Grin the Grinch.
I shall stuff up the tree.
And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove.
He turned around fast and saw a small Who. It was Cindy Lou who was no more than 2.
The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water.
She stared at the Grinch and said,
Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking the Christmas tree? Why?
But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick.
Oh, my sweet little tot. Oh, there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here.
And his fib fooled the child.
He patted her head, got her a drink, and sent her to bed.
When Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up.
And the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar.
On the walls, he left nothing but hooks and some wire.
And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was too small for even a mouse.
Then he did the same to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses.
It was 1/4 dawn. All the Who's still abed. All the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled.
Packed up all the presents, all the ribbons, the wrappings,
The tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings.
3,000 feet up to say, of Mount Crumpety Road with his load to the tip top, to jump it.
Pooh-pooh to the Who's.
He was graciously humming.
They're just finding out now that no Christmas is coming, and they're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two, and then the Who's down in Whoville will all go boo-hoo. Now that's a noise that I simply must hear.
So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow.
It started in low, then it started to grow.
But the sound wasn't sad. This sound sounded merry.
Why, it shouldn't be so.
But it was merry.
As he stared down at Whoville, the Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise.
Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, were all singing without any presents at all.
Why, he hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same.
And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling.
How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags.
And he puzzled for 3 hours, till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before.
Maybe Christmas
He thought,
doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more.
And what happened then?
well, in Whoville, they say, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day.
And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with the load into the bright morning light.
And he brought back the toys.
And food for the feast.
And he himself,
The Grinch!
carved the roast beast.
Cheers to the Grinch!
And that's the story of the Grinch who stole Christmas. And we wish you a very Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy